It looks like a lot can change in 10 years, right? House of the Dragon's sixth episode jumped forward a decade, and with it came new actors, new stories, and a whole lot of new problems for the Targaryens, including puberty, it seems. Here, we'll be taking a deep dive into the episode and picking apart scenes and Easter eggs from throughout the story. Stick around and see if you noticed everything. We bet you didn't. As usual, we get that long opening credits with that ever familiar theme tune. Eagle-eyed fans will notice that the journey for the continuous stream of blood has been edited slightly to fit with this point in the timeline. For example, at one point in the background, we see blood protruding from the Hightower family crest in the formation of multiple streams, alluding to Alicent's family members. We also see 3 streams of blood break off from a symbol, symbolizing Daemon's helmet that he wore during the tourney in episode 1. The 3 streams symbolize the 3 marriages that he's now undertaken by this point in his life. Blood would definitely seem suitable for this with how most of the Targaryen princes' marriages end. The opening scene is an extensive shot of an older Rhaenyra, now played by Emma Darcy, as she gives birth. Straight away, we're getting a callback to the labor scene of Emma, Rhaenyra's mother, who passed away during labor in an attempt to save her child and potential heir. Labor doesn't exactly tickle, obviously, but it's clear from the look on the princess's face that she's a bit worrisome. With a baby boy then born, it's instantly said that Queen Alicent wishes to see the infant.
The Queen has requested that the child be brought to her.
And we can assume it's not to have dibs on Godmother for the bundle of joy. Rhaenyra obliges to this, and we get a powerful and very long tracking shot of the princess and hubby Laenor taking the infant to see Alicent. Here, Rhaenyra looks to be defying Alicent in a way. The queen probably didn't expect Rhaenyra to be up and power walking out of bed so quickly. She was probably hoping to inspect the child of her own accord. Not only is Rhaenyra doing this, but she's also somewhat relishing in the fact that she hasn't shared the same fate as her mother and is much stronger. It's the ultimate juxtaposition to what happened to her mother. What better way to symbolize you've survived childbirth than going on a long walk through the castle? Well, a pulse would usually do the trick, but not for our Rhaenyra. As the parents have presented the new child to Queen Alicent, now played by Bates Motel's Olivia Cooke, Laenor is quick to name the child Joffrey.
Does the babe have a name yet?
He'll be called Joffrey.
Game of Thrones fans shouldn't just expect this as a nod to the evil, twisted, heartless, let's keep it civil, the young son of Cersei Lannister. Joffrey is named hereafter Joffrey Lonmouth, Laenor's deceased lover. You might remember him. His face was turned to mush by Sir Criston Cole in the previous episode. Yeah, now it's ringing a bell, right? It's a little hint at Laenor's eternal longing and respect for his dead lover boy. From the looks of this scene, Alicent is clearly still holding a grudge against her old friend Rhaenyra after her lying about her not being bedded. Girl code clearly runs deep for these royal ladies. By insisting on seeing the newborn Joffrey, she wishes to inspect the child for similarities between him and his father. The couple's other 2 sons, Jacaerys and Lucerys, you will see have no similarities in appearance with their father, creating the question around Westeros of who the daddy truly is. We then get that line from Alicent to Laenor. Do keep trying. Sooner or later you may get one that looks just like you.
Do keep trying, Selena. Sooner or later you may get one who looks like you.
Ouch! This line is actually lifted straight from the book the events of the series are based on, Fire and Blood. King Viserys, we see, has looked better. Well, a lot better. Okay, let's face it, he looks like he's deceased already. With a whole arm now gone, his mysterious ailment is clearly continuing to weaken him, and it could only be a matter of time before he's drawn his last breath. Does this explain Alicent's desperate conversation with her son later? Rhaenyra now having 3 children is a far cry from who she was in episode 1. During that episode, we see that she told her mother she doesn't want children and would rather serve as a knight.
I'd rather serve as a knight and ride to battle in glory.
Her knight-like resilience is shown in this episode earlier, when walking with her newborn to Queen Alicent. We see the extent of this from the trail of blood she left when she leaves Alicent's chambers, as noticed by her hubby. In reality, the closest Rhaenyra has got to being in a suit of armor was with Sir Criston. Mic drop. After a little family moment for Rhaenyra, we then get Harwin Breakbones Strong entering and having his moment in holding baby Joffrey. Strong, the commander of the City Watch, as Daemon once was, is clearly lined up as Joffrey's real papa, which would probably explain the parentage of young Jason Luke also. Wouldn't dyeing their hair bleach blonde have at least been an idea? Harwin and Rhaenyra's connection has been slightly hinted at in the series already. He happens to be the one who saved Rhaenyra from danger during the brawl on the day of her wedding to Laenor. He also gave young Rhaenyra a bit of a grin when she returned to camp in episode 3. Clever move, writers. Across the narrow sea in Pentos, in a scene of the usual cool CGI flying dragons, we are reintroduced to an older Laena Velaryon, now in womanhood, and it's revealed she is Daemon's current wife these 10 years on. Plot twist. Daemon and Laena are seen to be showing off their dragons to the citizens of Pentos. I wonder if they're available for hire for my son's birthday party. In the book, Daemon and Laena travel to Pentos after their wedding, due to how Viserys would feel about their nuptials. It's there that Laena would give birth to the twins, but the show has their children already as youngsters at this point. A bit of backstory from this episode also reveals that Laena finally bonded with a dragon at age 15, that dragon being Vhagar. Yeah, that's right. You'll remember that she spoke of interest about this dragon's whereabouts earlier in the series in episode 2 when speaking to her potential husband at the time, King Viserys. The couple, along with their twin daughters Bella and Rhaena, are invited to dine with Prince Reggio, who asked that they remain there basically as protection in return for living the life of luxury. It appears that the Triarchy has allied with Corran Martell of Dorne, which has Pentos in need of protection, and multiple dragons would be a great help. You'll remember that it was the Triarchy who earlier in the season invaded the Stepstones. Though Daemon is considerate of the proposal, Laena believes they deserve more as a family and insists that she doesn't want to lead a boring life and would rather a dragon rider's death at some point. This hints at her fate during the final section of this episode. With the new youngsters of this era, Aegon, Aemond, Jace, and Luke, we get a first look at the Dragon's Pit interior in all of its glory. Fans will remember that the ruins of the pit are shown during Game of Thrones, some 200 years later or so in the timeline. We get to see Jace having a lesson on how to instruct and control his dragon Vermax. If you notice, the dragon tamer who's teaching Jace has scars across his face, showing his intense work with the fire breathers over his career. Either that, or he had a very unfortunate incident with a cheese grater. During this scene, you'll notice that Aegon and Aemond are shown sporting the same color green in their tunics as the color of the dress their mother wore in the previous episode. If Laura Strong's words from the previous episode are anything to go by, it appears Alicent is instilling resilience and strength from her Hightower name into her children. Or Alicent is just a big fan of the Malfoy family's look. From the looks of Aegon's yawning during Jace's lesson, it looks like we're in for a bit of an arrogant run with the kid. Fun fact, also Aegon is played by the son of Doctor Who actor David Tennant. So is Matt Smith, who plays his Uncle Daemon, also within his rights to say he's played his dad? Let's not get this too confused. Moving on. Aemond, the youngest son of Viserys and Alicent, is taunted by his brother and nephews for having no dragon, being gifted by them with a makeshift dragon, a pig with fake wings and a tail pink dread. That's right, Velaryons and Targaryens don't always necessarily get an egg that'll hatch. This is later also shown in how out of Laena and Daemon's twin daughters, one has a dragon and the other doesn't. Is it just us, or do we already know that Aemond is going to grow up having a chip on his shoulder? Aemond then ventures down into the depths of the dragon pit, where he encounters one of the fire breathers and gets a bit of a scare that has him scrambling his way out of there. By the looks of Alicent's scolding of her son afterward, he's been caught venturing down there a few times before. This mirrors Catelyn Stark's scolding of her son Bran in the first episode of Game of Thrones for climbing all the time.
I want you to promise me no more climbing.
Well, we know where that havoc got him. Yeah, lay off on the skulking around the dragon pit, Aemond. Mama knows best. We do get a first look at Helaena Targaryen, a bit more grown up from her baby appearance in episode 4 as well. She seems much calmer and self-contained than the other current youngsters. Is this one headed in a more interesting direction? The comments she makes when Aemond is present may hint at her having a very fascinating future. Let's remember that Bran Stark wasn't the first to have those abilities of his. Or, she's just a quiet kid. Not every kid in Game of Thrones is sadistic or wielding a sword, people. Viserys' model Valyrian city continues to grow. He's been working on it since the beginning of the season, if you remember his first scene alone with Alicent. Anyone else expecting it to be destroyed upon his death somehow? We're calling it first, right now. Upon his wife bringing up the subject, Viserys dismisses Alicent's conversation of Rhaenyra's children being bastards. Not only does he wish to not believe in his daughter's treachery, but he's trying also to ensure his original decision of his daughter being his heir was not an error. He also reasons that his grandson's dragon eggs would not have hatched should they be bastards. Sure, Viserys, sure. When Alicent is walking through the Red Keep with Criston Cole at her side, Cole has some remarks to say about Rhaenyra, which Alicent is quick to shoot down. Could this be hinting at Alicent still having some form of a soft spot for her old pal? Or is it simply, as she says, her belief in that honor and decency will prevail?
That in the end, honor and decency will prevail.
After catching Aegon, being a teenager, She tries to make him aware of the place he's in regarding the throne. It reflects Otto trying to drill into a young Alicent what could be at risk should Rhaenyra sit on the Iron Throne. Also, that window he's pleasuring himself out of at the beginning of the scene, it's the same window King Tommen unexpectedly walked out of in Game of Thrones' surprising death moment. It's worth noting that Tommen did so because his mother was too preoccupied with vengeance to comfort her son in the aftermath of the Sept of Baelor exploding. Here, Aegon's mother bursts in for a passionate, eager conversation regarding her son's future. The old switcheroo. Back in Pentos, Daemon is shown to have a strong connection with one daughter, being affectionate and teaching her High Valyrian, whilst being neglectful of the other. As we see, he has a big interest in the dragon riders of old. It appears that as one child is yet to have a dragon, he doesn't see her as worth his time. Jeez, he clearly's read How to Neglect Your Unique Child in the Seven Kingdoms. I think Tywin Lannister also read that back to front. Sir Criston is shown training and being on the side of Alicent's children, with Harwin Strong being on the side of Rhaenyra's son and his Jace. Criston is clearly very much aligned with Alicent after she pulled him back from his darkest moment in Episode 5. Should we expect a bit of danger to come from this alliance further down the road? Well, wait a few more moments and the answer is a resounding yes. Criston pushes Aegon and Jace, the two eldest siblings of their houses, to fight. It's a good way for Criston to get back at his former lover Rhaenyra, after she broke his heart over a decade earlier. I mean, if only therapy was around in King's Landing. Once the two tussle, Criston finds an opportunity to goad Harwin over Jace, hinting at his parentage. Harwin beats him, and the beating mirrors the same way Criston beat Joffrey Lonmouth in the previous episode. Karma? I think very much so. When Rhaenyra hears of the commotion, she heads to Harwin. She actually uses the secret door Daemon revealed to her in Episode 4. It's clearly come in handy over the years. Rhaenyra is stopped in her tracks as she hears Harwin and his father Lionel, with the conversation centering on the father worrying for his son's safety after his outburst could add weight to the rumor of Rhaenyra's children's parentage. Rhaenyra, listening, mirrors Daemon's eavesdropping on the High Council in Episode 1. A worried Rhaenyra is greeted in her chambers by a drunken Laenor, who brings in a new boy toy, Sir Carl Corey, a new potential danger card to be played later in the season? Oh yes, for sure. Laenor speaks of wanting to go back to sea for adventure, and remarks about a pirate Tyroshi general who dyed his hair purple and wore women's clothing. Not only does it follow more down the route of his sexuality, but it's also a reference to Ricalio Rindoon. In the book, he takes over the Cherokee invasion after the defeat of the Crab Feeder. Anyway, to this, Rhaenyra says Laenor must stay and prove to the people that they are a strong family. Laenor then gives her a metaphor, saying that the wise sailor flees the storm as it gathers, with Rhaenyra replying that you can't abandon your post when the storm comes. This contradicts Sir Corlys in Episode 2, when he says that you must never wait for an oncoming storm. These metaphors hint at how Rhaenyra would rule should she be crowned queen in the future. We see, as Laena is shown comforting the twin Daemon doesn't care about, Laena assures her that one day she'll be a dragon rider. With this in mind, it's showing how much this daughter wants to please her father, and that being a dragon rider is the only way for acceptance. The High Council assembles with a petty squabble between the Blackwoods and Brackens being mentioned. Remember, in Episode 4, when Rhaenyra was finding a suitable man to wed, a Blackwood and Bracken duked it out. A feud between the two houses has gone on for centuries, and it's still going on, it seems. Something noteworthy in this scene is that unlike in the book, Rhaenyra and Alicent are members of the council now. It makes good sense to get them more dialogue together. We're also introduced to a new Grand Maester. Grand Maester Melos has now passed in the time since Episode 5, RIP, and is replaced now by Orwyl. You'll remember Orwyl being the one who made a new suggestion on how to heal the king's ailment aside from leeches earlier in the season. It's likely that Orwyl stepping in as Grand Maester and his newer methods of medicine explain how Viserys has lived another decade after his fall in the last episode. Lord Beesbury, Master of Coin, is older, but still on the High Council at this point, with new additions being Tyland Lannister, the Master of Ships. That's right, the Lannisters are in the Red Keep, and Master of Laws Jasper Wilde, it appears. This High Council scene also gives us some back and forth between Rhaenyra and Alicent regarding the Stepstones. We get clear ideas on how the two have ideals as rulers. Couldn't they just save the debate and put it in a Twitter poll? Rhaenyra then makes a large proposition for Alicent's favor regarding succession and their children's futures in being bonded by marriage. This is to clearly steer away from the ongoing questioning of who fathered Rhaenyra's children. Anyway, the conversation is interrupted by lactation. Awkward. Sir Harwin Strong is seen bidding farewell to his children, who don't even know they're his children, and he may have foreshadowed his own death when he said goodbye. While bidding the baby Joffrey adieu, Sir Harwin says, "I will be a stranger when we meet again."
I will be a stranger when we meet again.
Clearly, he's saying Joffrey won't remember him from there on out. Duh. But there is something much darker behind those words. Most citizens of Westeros worship the Seven, which is a god that is said to be split into 7 separate incarnations: father, mother, smith, warrior, maiden, crone, and stranger. The stranger is the incarnation that represents death. In the books, Arya Stark is even told that the stranger is the same god as the many-faced god and the god Syrio Forel names Death. As Harwin leaves, Jace is smart enough to figure out that he's just been with his father. Though Rhaenyra doesn't really deny it all that much, she makes it clear that him being a Targaryen is all that matters. How will unraveling this have an effect on Jace moving forward? Could we see him on an episode of Who Do You Think You Are? With Harwin and Lionel stepping down from their respective positions as Commander of the Watch and Hand of the King, Lionel puts it down to a shadow looming over his house when speaking with King Viserys. He even seems like he's about to reveal the truth about Harwin and Rhaenyra with Alicent watching on, but he's unable to in the end. Because of his failure to do so, Viserys does not allow him to resign. However, Viserys allows him to escort Harwin to their house seat at Harrenhal. Harrenhal happens to be where the Great Council was held in the opening of the show's first episode. We get the return then of the mysterious Larys Strong. As Larys dines with Alicent, he makes it clear how he doesn't very much care for his brother or father, going as far as revealing outright that Harwin is the father of Rhaenyra's children. Jesus, this guy would be perfect if this all played out on Jerry Springer. Laena struggles to give birth, and Daemon is given a choice. The choice mirrors the one Viserys was given in Episode 1, when Aemma struggled to give birth. With Daemon having made a toast about the situation in bad taste back during Episode 1, it seems karma once again is rearing its ugly, white-haired head. Laena musters her strength to go to Vhagar and die as valiantly as possible by her dragon's fire, with Daemon not reaching her in time to stop her. In the book, Laena merely wants to ride Vhagar one last time, but collapses before reaching her. Well, we definitely got the more cinematic ending for her at least. Harrenhal is seen to be set ablaze, with Lionel and Harwin trapped inside. The fire at Harrenhal is set by death row prisoners sent by Larys, where Lionel and Harwin perish. Larys even has their tongues cut out so they can't speak of his involvement. Are we getting the show's version of Ramsay Bolton or Littlefinger? Oh, most definitely. In the book, the fire is seen as an accident, but there are rumors of Daemon in the frame for it to remove one of Rhaenyra's lovers, and even Corlys for Harwin having slept with his son's wife. And yes, even King Viserys is a rumored culprit in an effort to stamp out the rumors surrounding Sir Harwin and his daughter. We see Laenor sparring with Qarl, something he used to do with his dead lover Joffrey. A hint at the new lover. You know what they say, if they're sparring, then they're probably sleeping together. That's an old saying, right? Rhaenyra arrives and tells Laenor of her plans to take their family to Dragonstone, away from the vicious rumors around their family. She also states that Qarl can join them, indirectly allowing her husband to enjoy his sexual pleasures further. The Best Wife Ever award nomination is on the cards, right, Laenor? The mention of Dragonstone should also cast fans' minds back a few episodes. This is, of course, where Daemon resided during Episode 2. Looking as sick as ever, Viserys looks at his remaining hand and at his deceased wife Aemma's ring. It's clear that he still thinks of her and misses her from how he looks at it longingly. A mouse is then seen roaming around Viserys' chambers. With a mouse appearing in the evening Rhaenyra had a night on the town with her uncle Daemon, and another present in the blood of Joffrey in the last episode, it looks like this is telling Viserys that something bad is headed his way. A bad omen seems to be a mouse scurrying around in Westeros. Or mice are just really nosy in the affairs of Westeros. They could be Larys' secret minions. I think we're onto something. Let's keep an eye out for more rodents moving forward. Larys reveals to Alicent after an eerie voiceover that he had a hand in the death of his father and brother. Alicent is of course shaken, and Larys manipulates the situation by saying he did it on her behalf, so her father Otto could return to the inner circle of the Red Keep. How sweet! He then says a time will come when she will reward him for his efforts. How not so sweet. Keep an eye out in the future for when this reward will be called upon. Although Larys claims to have done this for Alicent, it does beg the question of what's in it for Larys. With Harrenhal now under his control, he could benefit from this, right? There's also the beetle symbol on Larys' cane and the pin he gives to the inmates. We did say earlier that Helaena seems a bit off, and lest we forget, she has an affinity for bugs, as shown in this episode. Is Larys molding Alicent's daughter as his own royal minion? Well, wait a bit to think about this. We'll dive into Larys' place in the story very soon in a separate video. The jump into the future has been an interesting one, and there's clearly a lot to unpack and keep an eye out for. Did you notice anything else? Are you surprised by certain things in this episode? What do you think is set to happen in episode 7? Make sure you let us know in the comment section below.